Hi, it's the Mike Rogers Show. Mike Rogers here with you. And today I have a very special guest. Think back to the glory days of FM radio. Who was the number one most famous caster? Yes, that's it. Carol Hisasue.
I thought you were going to say Casey Kasem.
No. Carol, how are you?
Good. It's been a while, since I saw you last. When was it? Several years back, right?
I don't remember. Since, COVID has happened. Time
is kind of in a different sort of melty state, I think.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw each other, there was a party for someone. I think it was for you.
I know. It was January. It was our New Year's party, and we all gathered in some fancy hotel.
Yeah.
That was it.
Oh, and there was like 3 guys there and 25 women, and the other guy, one of them was Mitch, and I don't remember who else. Maybe I was looking in the mirror at myself, so that makes 2. But yeah.
But what's terrible is, like, we were talking about getting old, is I've forgotten so much about those days, radios, all the people I met, all the people I worked with. And so, if I don't see anybody for like 3 or 4 years, I don't even, I go like, I kind of recognize his face, but
I do that. I do that all the time. People,
it's so embarrassing.
I know people will walk up to me and say, "Hey, Mike, how are you?" And I'm like, "Who are you?" But I don't say that. But I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah. Hey, how's it going? Long time no see."
One time, I met a bunch of people in LA. They were radio people from Tokyo. They were there for the Grammys. This was years ago. And, John Kabira was there, and Liesl came out, and Kara Jones came out, and I was in LA that time. So I went out, and then there was this woman there. I'm thinking, oh God, I know her really well, but damn it, I can't remember who it was. But I can't like, she goes, oh, hi, Keller-san, and did this whole thing, and I'm going like, hi. And I'm just kind of making like small chit chat. And then when she wasn't looking, I'm going, who is that? Who's that person? And they go, don't you remember Komaki Yuka? And I'm going, oh God, I forgot her face.
I haven't seen Komaki Yuka in 35 years, I think. No, not that long. Maybe, at least 30 years. I haven't seen her.
Yeah.
I heard she.
So yeah, it was embarrassing to, not remember her name and face and everything. But the funny thing was, another funny thing was when we were talking, she gets into this thing about, oh, I'm taking baking lessons, because she was living in London at the time. She goes, and
That's
she was
right.
at the she was at the Grammys for, doing the MC thing. But anyway, she lived in London, and she said, I'm taking these baking lessons, because how Japanese bread is so good. And I'm going like, really? She's going, I'm going to make like, Japanese, like ampan and meronpan and stuff. And so I'm taking lessons. And then she brings out her smartphone and starts scrolling through a million pictures of different types of bread she's made.
Really?
And Liesl and Kara and I are going, oh, wow. But, inside we're going like, gosh, you've taken like a million pictures of your bread. I hope she's not watching. No, she's a really sweet person. Yuka-san, you're really nice. I'm sorry I'm making fun of that, but it was, those 2 things were things that stood out in my mind. So I'm not really, I am actually a bitch, but
I haven't seen her since she got married. I went to her, I think it was her wedding or something like that.
Wow, you got invited. Oh, you are Mr. Star
No.
DJ.
Oh, no, not at all. I think I got invited because I was co-hosting a show with her. So it was kind of like a default thing,
Like giddy thing.
Yeah, so I get the same thing, I see this lady and she's like, Mike, and she gives me a hug. And I'm like, who is this? Who is this? And then I remember, Mom. Yeah. Hey, Mom, how's it going? So
I haven't seen you since last Saturday.
you sent me this. Can
Yes.
you see this how come? Oh, there it is. J-Wave timetable.
Yeah.
You sent me this, and what you're talking about. I looked through here and I thought, who are these people? I don't recognize anybody in here except for a couple of people, and then it's got this big J Trend produce. Who is this guy? I don't know who that is.
Who is that guy? What is his name?
Frank Leslie.
Oh, Frank Leslie. I think
I don't know.
he was the guy that was involved in all those silly jingles. Remember, like J-Wave was every 5 seconds they played some jingle. They were so jingled out at one time, and I think he was the producer of those jingles.
Oh, really?
You know, yeah, the 81.3 J-Wave, that starting with that, and all the variations.
The only person that I remember is you. I remember John Kabira. I remember Chris Pepler. And Jamie Tengen.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. I don't remember anyone. If I met them on the street today, if they said hi, Mike, I'd be like, hey, how's it going? Talk to you later.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
Carol, you were, and I really believe this is true. You were one of, if not the most famous DJ in Japan during the golden. Those were the golden years, weren't they?
They were. It was a great time, and I think back and my whole career has just had ups and downs, and and until I bailed completely. But when J-Wave first started, it was so much fun. It was a lot of fun, and we had a blast on air and off air.
Yeah, J-Wave was like the first time at any radio station I ever felt like this is kind of like Hollywood.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool, but then there were elements in there, or staff, that were trying to make it not so cool, and that was a bummer.
Yeah, there's always lots of those.
Yeah.
So things in FM radio in Japan, I think are really bad now.
Mm.
The final station that you worked at,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mention it. I unfortunately had I had the misfortune of listening to it the other day in a car, and I was listening to it and I kind of thought, like, what are they talking about? And then I realized they had radio shopping, a show.
Oh,
for radio shopping on in the afternoon. It was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought, this is terrible.
You know what made it so fun when J-Wave first started, and this is kind of Japan was in a very strange sort of period economically. I mean, it was there's huge economic bubble. Companies had just money to burn, and everyone had too much money, and they had to spend it to avoid taxes, and it was just so much money was just flowing in and out and just spreading everywhere. And so the radio stations, they could pretty much do whatever they wanted, and they'd still get the sponsorship money, which is why the shows were so good, because we were free to do whatever we thought was going to be fun, play the kind of music we thought, listeners would enjoy. And they did. Everybody enjoyed the shows. But then when the bubble burst and money got tight, the producers got into this situation where they were pandering to the sponsors to try to get their money. And the sponsors, what do they, what does Shiseido or Isetan or any of these people, what do they know about making radio shows? They don't. But they're thinking, well, I'm spending this money, so I want some visible results, right? So I did a show for and then the sponsor was, and this was not a bad show. It was actually one of the better ones, but the sponsor was a wine distributor. You know, and in the old days when like J-Wave first started, they would buy the show, but then they go, do whatever you want. And then, you know, I would always say, oh, let's just make a playlist that would be really great and make you want to drink more or something like that, you know, something just kind of just off the, you know, whatever. But when money got tighter, they would go like, oh, we want you to like feature this wine or that wine, talk about this. And so it became like, you know, radio shopping. It wasn't like I was selling it like TV, you know, like TV shopping or whatever, but I'm still there pushing a product instead of being a DJ, you know, and that was kind of a drag, and that wasn't even the worst of it, you know, that was a pretty good show.
They should have gotten Barry White to do that show that you're talking about. Did you ever hear Barry White's show? It was either on before my show or after my show.
Oh, Barry White was fantastic.
Yeah, but some days he would be so drunk. He would be slurring us. Yes, right here. It was like,
oh
man,
gosh,
this guy's so drunk. And I thought, God, that's the kind of job I want to do.
yeah. Get Suntory to sponsor it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I think it's a long story, but because of JASRAC, the FM radio stations in Japan are able to survive because there's no internet radio in this country. Actually, you can do an internet radio station, but you still have to pay the same amount of money for music publishing that a major FM station has to pay. So that's why they're blocked outside of Japan. And then, you know, outside of Japan, stations do broadcast, but they're not in Japanese, right? So nobody listens to them. I don't think people listen to internet radio until about 3 years ago. So
it seems like everyone here in the States is, you know, on Spotify or Pandora or, you know.
Yeah. Do you know that? I just told a guy this morning, you know, Spotify is not successful in this country.
And I wonder why.
Well, it's
or does JASRAC get in the way of it?
In a way, yes. So what it is the major label artists will not put their music on Spotify. And it was that way when Tower Records started. Tower Records started as an import record shop, and then none of the Japanese major labels would give their music to Tower Records. And that went on for, I don't know, 20 years. And so, you know, Tower kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then HMV came in, and then Virgin came in, and then they finally decided, okay, we better. We'd better get on board here. But I think it's the same situation here with Spotify and what's it called? iTunes? No, Apple Music. But anyway, enough about this radio talk.
Enough about this. What I want to know is how you went to Japan. I mean, you weren't born and brought up. I mean, there are many DJs that were born and brought up in Japan, but you were not one of them, and you lived in the U.S. until some time.
Until I was 26 years old.
So what took you to Japan?
This is a long story. You sure you want to hear this?
Yeah, I do.
So, you know, I'm half Japanese, right? You know that, right?
Right.
So all my life, I really loved Japan for some reason. And my mom.
But you lived in LA?
Ventura.
Oh, Ventura. Oh.
Most of the time. And when I was a little kid, my mom would sing shoujoji, nantoka, nantoka, nantoka to me. at night. And I really love that. And so I've always loved Japan. And I'd always, being a half Japanese, I'd always thought like I am Superman because I am half Japanese and I'm half American. So I can see, be on both sides of the fence. I'm serious. I really thought that.
Mhm.
So after I graduated from college, I married a Japanese girl, and I was a stockbroker, and I was really rich, Carol. I was very, very rich. I was 25 years old, and I bought a 4-bedroom house. I had 3 cars, and I had a wife, and she didn't work. And I worked at that job for 3 years. And one day something happened, and I just thought, I can't do this. You saw that movie Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, those were my bosses. Those guys, God, just like that. And I thought, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And I thought, no. And I said to my wife, do you want to move to Japan? Back to Japan? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, let's go. And everybody was so mad at me. My mom and dad, they were pissed off at me. So I moved back to Japan, and actually this is a true story. When I went to J-Wave for the first time, there were a lot of half Japanese kids there.
Mhm.
When I say kids,
People, yeah. Mhm.
And I had thought all my life that there were very few half Japanese in America, and anytime I would meet a half Japanese, there would be this like feeling, like brother,
A
sister.
bond.
Yeah, the brother, sister. And then I started working at J-Wave, and I met all these half Japanese, and it wasn't there.
Mm.
It was very strange to me. And I thought, gee, it's different here in Japan. And to this day, that kind of really, it was such a mind fuck to me.
You know what I noticed through my years in Japan was that half Japanese people that were born and brought up in Japan, or maybe born somewhere else but brought up in Japan,
Mhm.
are very different from half Japanese people I've met who born and brought up in Paris or in the in the United States, or somewhere else. Somehow, I don't know, the one, if you grow up in Japan as half Japanese, and when I say half Japanese, I guess I'm really talking about half Eurasian Japanese,
Mhm.
like Japanese and American, or Japanese and British, or some
Mhm.
Western person. They have a kind of weird, I think, like a superiority and inferiority complex.
I
Um,
totally agree with you.
I don't know what it is. It's different. Whereas people who were brought up outside of Japan, where there are half, everybody's a mix, really.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you're half Japanese, and so when you do meet someone who's also got Japanese, it's very special. But being mixed, being biracial or multiracial is not like, something to, it's not that special. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
it really blew my mind. It still blows my mind. But nowadays, back in my day, there were like Issei and Nisei,
mhm.
and maybe some Sansei. But the other day, and I'm talking about like 10 years ago, I went back to California, and we were sitting at a sushi restaurant, and here was a Japanese and Nikkei family, and they were talking to one of their sons, and it must have been his brothers or friends or whatever were there, and they were hitting him, talking about how do you get so many D's and F's in school? And I looked at that and thought, what? I've never heard of anything like that. It just blew my mind.
What, that a Japanese, somebody who is
Yeah.
Japanese American would be getting D's and F's?
So I just kind of thought, wow. and I remember when I was, I don't know, maybe 19 or 20, I did date a Sansei girl, and I'm not that many times, but it was totally, she was totally different. And I just kind of thought, well, generationally, they just, people are so different.
Yeah. You know, I remember like even in going through grade school or junior high or even high school, which I went to high school in Japan, but the Asian kids were the ones that always studied hard and were good at
Yeah.
math, and they were the overachievers, and that's sort of our impression of like the Japanese Americans too, like sansei, yonsei, whatever,
Yeah.
are the overachievers. Well, I was your odd underachiever Asian person everywhere I went. I was always just goofing off. I only paid attention to things I was interested in. So yes, I was one of those wacky Asians that got D's and F's.
Yeah, but I think getting D's and F's if you're in a Japanese school is different.
I got D's and F's in international school. Yeah, right on.
Right on. But no, seriously, when I was young, I really considered myself Superman. I'm a Superman. And then when I went to high school, I was president of the science club and just all that sort of total geek. No friends. I mean, a few friends, but yeah. So that's weird.
Yeah, well, I was a goof off, low, underachiever, but I was a loner and I didn't have friends either. So
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
We moved around. My father, we moved around a lot when I was growing up. So I never went to the same school for more than like 2 or 3 years at a time. So, it was hard to make friends. And when I did, I moved away, and I was terrible at keeping friends too. So, after we moved.
Okay. So I told you I was raised in Ventura, but that's only because that was the longest place I lived in. My dad was a U.S. Marine, and when I was a little kid, like from, I don't know, 4 years old till I think junior high school, 9th grade, junior high school, I never went to the same school 2 years in a row. I went 1 year, and I have no friends from my youth. And
Me neither.
same thing. In fact, I don't even have, I have one friend from high school.
Yeah, me too.
But I meet people all the time. They're like, in Japan, my friend says, yeah, I'm going to, I forget, Nandake, I'm going to a meeting for, my kindergarten class is meeting again. I'm like, what? He's like, my kindergarten class.
Well, I know people like that go to their like high school reunion and they meet up with kids that they went to kindergarten with. They meet up with a group of people they went to kindergarten, grade school, junior high, and high school. I'm going, wow.
Well, this guy that I was just referring to, he's at least 76 or 77 years old. And before the Corona thing happened, I met him one day and he's going to some class reunion for his kindergarten class or whatever. And I was like, are you kidding me? And he said, no, we do it every year.
Wow.
That's so weird. I mean, to me, that's weird.
I know it is weird to me too, but I guess for those people, it's
it's terrible not having any friends. So
I'm your friend, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Carol. So, Carol,
yes.
I wanted to ask you about when you worked at J-Wave and when you worked at these stations, you were so famous and popular, and your English is so good that you got to interview lots of really super famous people. And I'm jealous. I'm jealous because I did not get to do that.
I'm really fortunate, and I wish I had a better memory because, boy, I've forgotten like most of the people that I people go, oh, tell me about the people you interviewed or any interesting stories, and I'm going, oh, geez, if you'd asked me when I was doing it, then I'd have lots better luck.
You interviewed Lou Reed.
Yes, I did.
And you interviewed Joe Strummer.
Yes. There were a bunch of people I remember. Lou Reed, Joe Strummer, Jimmy Page.
What?
Oh boy!
You interviewed Jimmy Page?
Keith Richards. I mean, there were some biggies, and then just some wacky indie people whose names I've forgotten, but were really cool and fun and stuff. But yeah. Well, Lou Reed was, and it's always difficult when. So of course I get to choose. I would ask for like, oh, so and so is in town for a promotion or a concert. And I go, oh, I would really love to interview so and so, and it might not happen. Then there are a bunch of people who are already in Japan to promote their debut album, so I don't know who they are, right? Mm-hmm. And they come through the studio, and I don't really know, but they could be they could be great, they could be horrible. But when it's somebody that whose music I grew up with, mm-hmm. It's I just get very nervous. I'm going like, oh God, I'm gonna make a huge ass out of myself. I mean, it started like way even before J-Wave, when I was doing interviews for MTV. They had just started, and we were shooting some things in Japan, and one of the things that we did was Bob Dylan was playing at the Budokan with the Heartbreakers, and as their backup band, as his backup band, like they were
the Heartbreakers. Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool, and the interviews with the members of the Heartbreakers and Tom Petty all went very well. And then it was time for, Bob. He came out there. First off, the terrible thing was Richard Manuel of the band had just committed suicide, like, I don't know, that day or the day before. And news had come in, and everybody was getting nervous, saying, don't say anything to Bob. Don't say anything to Bob. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, don't say anything to Bob until at least after the interview. But anyway, he walks in, and he's got this hoodie over mm-hmm. his face, and you could just see his nose, his big nose. And so and then of course it's not like really my interview, it's for MTV. So they sent me a list of questions they want me to ask. So, I've got to ask those questions first before I even start talking to them. And they're just dumb ass questions.
They're always dumb ass questions.
But I ask them anyway, and they're so stupid. He doesn't want to answer. And all he does is he goes, yeah. No, I don't know.
And
it was like horrible.
The director's going like this.
TV, and it was one of the worst interviews I've ever done. So here we are, I'm at the Hilton Hotel to interview, or maybe it was a Keio Plaza, I can't remember, one of those Shinjuku hotels, to interview Lou Reed. And we go in, and I'm kind of waiting, and in the room beyond us, because it's a suite, I hear this fighting, people yelling.
Oh,
it's Lou Reed fighting with his wife, who was his at that time wife, who was his manager.
Oh,
and
great!
They are just screaming at each other.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Oh God! And what happened was, I think the record company had put me in as the first interviewer because they thought, well, we don't want to like have some stupid Japanese, whatever TV, for example, come in and just make him so pissed off that he just cancels the rest of the interviews. And so I guess the record company thought that, well, at least, if Carol does it, it won't go terribly.
Can you eat natto? Can you eat natto?
Yeah, right. Yeah, can you eat natto? But then I'm thinking, oh God, here he is. He's going to come out. He's going to be so pissed off. And sure enough, he comes out, and he's in this really cranky mood. And this was when he had released the Magic and Loss album. And so I'm asking, and it's a very dark album. And so I'm asking things about the songs, and he doesn't want to talk about it. And I can tell. And he's just going, I don't know. And I, ask him something. He goes, well, what do you think? And I'm going, oh shit, this is radio. I mean, we can't air this. And I wanted to say, I'm not here to talk about what I think about your songs. Our listeners want to know what you think. But I was still like very young then, and I wasn't this pushy. And I'm like, oh crap. And then I remember that he loves old R&B, right? So I just shift and I start talking about old R&B stuff, like the Drifters and the this and the that. And then he lights up and he's going, oh yeah, I just love old doo-wop, the old R&B stuff. I grew up on that shit. And he starts just going on and on. Yeah, on the plane over here to Tokyo, I was listening to a compilation of old R&B things that Ry Cooder had picked up, and la 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 la. And then finally, he's animated, he's talking, and we just keep it going until my time's up. And after that, he's like shaking my hand and goes, oh, thank you so much for such a great interview. And now he's in a great mood for everybody else.
Well, that's your job. That's your job. You did your job.
Why did this happen this way?
Wow. So wait, so Carol, so I said we want to do this interview in 2 parts. So I want to end part 1 here because this stupid thing, it looks like it's going to hang up in 5 minutes. So
oh yeah. We could have used my I have a pro account. We could have used that and
well
well no, you need to record it and everything. So okay. Do you want to stop
okay,
and then
yeah. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, the one, the only, the world famous Carol Hisaswe. She interviewed Bob Dylan, and she interviewed Lou Reed and lots of famous people. And we'll be back here tomorrow for part 2 with the interview of Carol Hisaswe. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.